Hi everybody, it's Saul Sunforge here for Dungeons and Taverns. Often as a dungeon master, you'll have so many ideas at once that it's inevitable that you're going to lose a few of them, sometimes forever. I've been doing a better job at taking notes or committing to memory the larger ideas, but some of the smaller ideas still slip through, and they're forgotten forever. I always thought that with monsters having possible legendary actions, layer actions, villainous actions, if you homebrew those in, um, and then there's regional actions as well. So the enemies, the higher powered enemies for certain, have a good leg up. They're not, of course, they're not meant for you to fight one on one, and if you only have one of them and no other henchmen, they get outnumbered and things like that. That's why those actions exist. To give the creature a grander scale, to make them feel like they're imposing, and to give them more of a chance against a group and not need as much help. Um, Occasionally, through the course of a campaign, I sometimes allow players to do a lot more than they can do in one turn. I never had a name for it, and when I allowed it to happen specifically, it was more of like an intuition type situation where a player gets to intentionally do more in a round than is allowed by the rule according to the rules as written. A perfect example would be a fighter who's seeking a tactical advantage by dashing to the edge of a balcony and making a leap over to a chandelier, and then they grab it and pull themselves up, and they time the chandelier so they can jump off of it and go knock over some enemies below with their body. Those things would take several turns to do normally, because you gotta dash over and you gotta jump onto the chandelier, pull yourself up, and then you gotta jump off and make your attack. So there's a few different things that are going on in that um, complex situation. But normally, the rules as written doesn't allow that to happen all in one turn. Even though it's very epic, it adds to the campaign. I feel the rules as written does not allow this to occur. In the current campaign that I upload to this in the current campaign that uploads to this channel, one of my players wanted to do something that is well above and beyond what is allowed by the rules as written. The character Govin wanted to do something that I thought was pretty amazing and clever to get out of his dire predicament. And then the predicament was the party was in a fight where they had to hold a position for 1 minute or 10 rounds, because each D&D round is 6 seconds, so 10 rounds, in defense of a house that was basically on a floating, suspended floating platform above a lava field, at the lava from the base of a volcano. And so the players had to go from platform to platform while they were fighting and defend the main platform that had the house. But they're not defending the house, but more importantly, the people that were in the house. And then, after like round 5 or so, I changed it up so that it wasn't just creatures coming into play. After round 5, I think it was 5 or 6, the players, in addition to dealing with the extra enemies coming in, they had to deal with these platforms raising or lowering down into the lava. Govin had just jumped to a platform in order to go toe to toe with a demon that was on that platform. I believe the demon was hurt a little bit beforehand. It was a pretty high CR demon. I think it was like CR 7 or something like that. But for one character to take it would have been a pretty tall task, even though the characters at this point are heading to level 17 um, in the live campaign. But Govin decided that he wanted to jump to that demon's platform, and so he had to roll a check to jump to the platform. He did so, and then he wanted to take the demon, pick him up, which he had to do a strength opposing strengths. He was able to win, so he picked the demon up and threw him. And then he ran to the edge of the platform and used the demon's body as a makeshift platform as it was falling. And so he jumped to the demon's body and then jumped back to the other platform as his platform that he was currently on was sinking down into the lava. And so he had a series of checks to roll for the great risk reward of this situation. But he really didn't have a point. He didn't really have an escape plan because the platform was lowering into the lava, and it was too far for him to jump or try to climb out of that situation. So he was clever and used the body of the demon. And I, of course, allowed this to happen because those are the moments that I truly believe that D&D shines. It's that those moments that make somebody, a player, feel truly heroic. And so, anyway, so he completed all these things. He jumped to safety. He passed every single one of his checks. And this, you call this a skill challenge if you like in the middle of combat. But I like to do those types of things quite often. And so he passed all of his athletics checks, the opposing strength check. He passed the acrobatics check. And these are all things that rules as written would take probably about 3 or 4 rounds to complete, just by the number of things that you're trying to do in a 6-second period. But in those instances, I throw those rules out and allow those things to happen. I've always allowed these moments to occasionally happen, based off of the situation, but I never really had a name for it until I was talking with Giluin, who's one of my players. He plays Asgrim, who's more of a scholar. He's kind of a mishmash from a different system, arcane mechanic, from his own home country, Denmark, and combined with D&D. Somewhat of a wizard, but only up to a certain slot level. And so he suggested, he was talking about heroic action, and it just immediately clicked that that's what I should call this series of improbable moves in combat that would allow a player to feel like a total badass and to have their individual moments to shine. And D&D, with all its flaws, it's still a really solid foundation of rules. It's got a really good, strong pillar. But these additional flares to spice up the game goes beyond the rules. And as the DM, you're not beholden to the rules. The DMG actually states that one of the biggest rules is that the DM is free to ignore the rules. You can pick and choose where you want. A lot of players don't like if you let go too many things and add too many things, but a lot of players do like that because you make it your own, and that's what that's for. So I'm still deciding on what the conditions should be they should meet to gain these actions, because I want them to be a resource that they can use, that they can spend. I don't know if I want it to be a finite resource or if I want it to be something like akin to inspiration, because I had things that I was doing with inspiration to completely change it, change and add to it, to what's already there. So not completely change it. It's leaving the core mechanic, but it's expanding. That's what I always try to do whenever I homebrew. I usually try to leave a core mechanic, but expand. Because players, they pretty much, if you played for a while, you pretty much understand the core mechanics. And so there isn't much of a leap to what I propose to change or add to a mechanic. There isn't that huge of a leap of logic because I'm using that core mechanic. It isn't coming from nowhere. But I'm still deciding those things. Once I have a decision, I'm going to make an updated video. I'll give more examples. And I also, it's not going to be limited to just combat. You know, people, you're going to be able to use it during role playing as well. You know, and you, the player, are going to be able to make your impassioned speech or whatever instead of just having to roll a deception or whatever. You'll be able to do it yourself. If you're trying to give an inspirational speech, it's you who's going to be inspiring me essentially. It's because it'll be your character speaking to whoever to inspire them. And so this mechanic is going to come into play for quite a bit of things, not just combat. But once I flesh that out with examples and the mechanic fully fledged out, I'll present it to you guys in a new updated video. So with that said, I'm Saul Sunforge. This is Dungeons and Taverns. If you like my content, give me one of these, give me a subscribe, and let your friends know about my channel. That's the best way to promote me. And I will leave my social medias in the description or the comment section as a pinned comment. So you'll be able to find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Discord, and then eventually here I'll add my TikTok. I haven't really been working on that too much because I've been working on things for you guys. So I appreciate you all. I appreciate your time. Hopefully this gives you some inspiration for your own events and your games. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.